Hey guys, it's Josh here. Welcome to interview number 4 of my series, Scaling Your Divi Web Design Business. In this talk, I got to chat with Tammy Grant, who is the owner of Sunflower Creatives. Now, Tammy has essentially 2 different businesses. She has under one. She has her web design, client-facing side of Sunflower Creatives, where she does small to medium-sized website builds, and then she also does child themes and things like that for fellow community members of Divi. So we talk about how she's managing a remote subcontract team right now and how she's managing those businesses. We got into some really good detail on how she got started, why she wanted to scale, some of the struggles that she faced when she started scaling, and it was a really good beneficial talk. We also talk in more detail about the tools they use to centralize communications, and she dishes out a lot of good information about what to do when you're trying to manage all of that stuff. So it was a great talk. Can't wait to hear how this helps you out. Tammy, thanks so much for taking some time and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me, Josh.
So before we dive into some lessons learned and your experience with, kind of scaling and growing your business so far, why don't you tell us a little bit about Sunflower Creatives and then maybe how big your team is right now?
Sunflower Creatives is a small web design business located in Orlando, Florida. And we have about 6 on our team, spanning from content writers to developers. We've been in business for several years, and I've been in the web development business for 20 years. And we've been working with Divi exclusively for the last 2 years.
Awesome. So now, did you have Sunflower Creatives when you started, the 20 years ago?
Or no.
Okay, it was something different at that point.
Right. My company has changed a lot over 20 years. We've had several different company names as the business community has changed. Back 20 years ago, it was much more corporate, so you had more corporate sounding names, and now it's a little bit more creative and more casual, and all different types of businesses are acceptable.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so how old is the name then, the Sunflower Creatives name?
Sunflower Creatives is only 2 years old. The name.
Okay. So right around the time you started using Divi, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And when you started, was it just you then, Tammy, or did you have anyone, working with you when you started?
Well, 20 years ago, it was just me. And I kept the business, speaking of scale, I didn't want to scale the business at that time. I wanted it to stay kind of like a freelance business because I was raising children and I didn't want to be too busy. So now that both of my girls are in college, I have been scaling the business.
Okay. And that's a really good point too. And I think that's probably a good inspiration for people in different just life circumstances, and different timing of life. And that's one thing I love about freelance web design is you can make it as big or as small as you want to. Mm-hmm. For me, we're getting ready to have our first little one, and one reason I want to scale is to kind of free myself up to do the most important work that I need to do. And that's kind of one of the biggest reasons I have for it. But yeah, so for you, is that kind of when you knew you wanted to scale, was when you had a little more time to devote to it?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe from your mindset then, Tammy, scaling actually, would you say that scaling took more time from you as opposed to you just doing things on your own?
It did, because I'm growing my business, as they used to say a long time ago, bootstrapping my business, which meant that it's going to require a lot of time investment on my part as well as money. So it definitely, for me, scaling a business took a lot more time for me.
Gotcha. And I think that's a good kind of word of warning, because initially, when I thought about scaling my business, I wanted to do it to free my time up. But I'm realizing with doing more interviews and just as, day to day as the business grows, that it's probably going to be more time involved with scaling it. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm excited about at least freeing myself up to do what I do best and what I really want to do.
Right.
So for you, what's that look like for you? What's your, are you more on the marketing side, as far as like running the business, or what's your ideal skill set for your business?
Development.
Oh, okay.
I prefer to build. I prefer not to design, and I'm not really into marketing, but I'm finding myself doing more managing than anything. So Although I'm more comfortable developing, I can't spend as much time doing that part because even though I'm scaling the business, I'm still managing all the different moving parts.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so so it sounds like you're probably working with a designer for the websites. And then are you doing any sales or anything like that right now? Or do you have somebody who handles all that for Sunflower Creatives?
Actually, don't do any sales. All of my business comes from Google.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I work with a designer, a developer, and we have a content writer, a blog writer, and a social media manager.
Gotcha. Very, very cool. So it sounds like a lot come from Google. That's impressive. Are you in any like networking groups or anything like that, or has it just been word of mouth, referrals, and just Google traffic?
It's been referrals, Google traffic, and word of mouth. As much as I'd love to be a part of, mastermind groups, I don't usually have a lot of time to do it. So
sure.
I'm hoping that this year I could continue freeing up more of my time. But just going through the process of freeing up time takes time. Which you're probably,
yep, I'm going through that right now.
That.
Yep, no doubt. I know it'll pay off though, which I'm super excited about. So I guess tell me a little bit about how you grew your team then, Tammy. You have several that you're working with. Are these people subcontractors that just come on board when you need them, or is it kind of like a part-time retainer kind of deal?
Well, a couple of them are part-time retainer deals, and a few of them are contractors. And I keep them busy. I get a lot of work to them. So I guess the next stage in my scaling would be to actually hire an employee.
Gotcha. So are these, more like 1099 subcontractor kind of situations for you right now?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm sure that's a whole nother ball game when it comes to actually bringing on somebody as a W-2 employee as opposed to
exactly.
Yeah. So when you started hiring these folks you're working with, did you find them through via Facebook groups, like Divi Facebook groups, or did you try to work with anyone local, anything like that? How'd you go about hiring them and working with them?
A couple of them I found through Facebook, and actually some of the Divi groups, a couple of them, and then others have actually reached out to me via email. And I guess I like to give everyone some consideration. So if I see someone that contact me or reach out, I'll see, how they work and maybe give them some small projects to see if a good industry. Gotcha.
And so I'm curious from your standpoint then, Tammy, so it's not like an internship, but it's almost like a trial run kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you give them kind of a mock-up site and like a child theme and see how they do with Divi and all that? Or how do you kind of test where they're at to see if they'd be a good fit?
I have several test sites set up already, and I would do just what you mentioned. Maybe ask them to build a page or create one just to see where their skill sets really are strong. And depending on where they are and how I feel about them as a person, I would decide to work with them.
Gotcha.
I do have some people that weren't officially part of the team that I'm actually considering right now. And one of them is a lawyer who's decided to get out of the law game and wants to go into web development. And he's done some work, but I think he has potential, so wow. I'm actually working with him.
I bet he'll have the most in-depth contract you've ever seen as a web developer, I'm sure.
It's not too bad. I was a little bit intimidated at first. Like, what is he going to think of this contract?
Yeah. He'll probably find all the loopholes and stuff. Well, that's really cool. So it's, it sounds like you're open to seeing where there are. And I know it's one thing Tim and I talked about in our talk was really trying to make sure people are empowered to grow too. That's some of the struggles that I've faced with the limited subcontracting and hiring out I've done is I need to learn that not everyone is me. And, people who are just getting into the web game are not going to be able to do things as fast as I do them because they don't know as much as I do, doing this for so many years. So I think that's probably something that we can all learn from too, is to really give them some room to grow and to empower them. So in that case, I mean, do you have, I guess maybe the bigger question is, and I was going to kind of save this to the end, but I think this applies here now. Are you growing right now? Are you actively scaling, or are you pretty content with where things are at right now?
I'm content for the moment, but I'm thinking that maybe in the second quarter this year, I may be interested in adding some more people.
Gotcha. And do you think that'll come into play for marketing for you? Do you see yourself marketing the business more as you get more hands on deck? Okay. Yeah, because gosh, you figure, if you're getting that much traffic right now, just with Google and referrals, imagine if you marketed. That's kind of my mindset, because I don't do any marketing either. So I've intentionally done that because I can't handle more clients than I'm getting right now until I scale.
Right. I don't feel like I'm quite ready for that yet.
Yeah, so. Yeah.
I'm still making sure the team is cohesive and systems are in place. And the next person that I'm about to start working with will be managing all the projects. And so I think that's going to be a big deal for me to have some managed projects.
Definitely. So in regards to how you're managing the projects, do you have a certain set of tools that you guys use? Do you communicate through like Slack, and do you have like Basecamp or any project management tools that you use? Because you're a remote team, right? No one's local.
No,
not everyone's local.
Right. We use Slack and a lot of casual conversations on Facebook Messenger. And we do use Asana to manage teams and divide the work. And that's pretty much how we manage.
Gotcha. And so Asana, I'm not familiar with that, but from my understanding, it sounds like it's kind of similar to like a Trello meets Basecamp. Do you kind of set to-dos and the project goals there, and you can just assign people for their roles on projects?
Yes, it's really great for project management as far as the team. When clients actually use it, it's great for them too.
Oh, okay.
So that's been the only thing about Asana. It's been great for the team, but we can't always get clients to use it.
Yeah,
it becomes one more thing they have to learn.
Yep, I have the same struggle with Basecamp, and I try to get people, and I tell them they can use their email. We just get the messages on Basecamp, but the big thing for me is to centralize communication, to limit losing things in email threads, which is the biggest problem that we all face, I know. Well, that's good to know. That's great then. And do you have kind of a systematized process? Like once you get a lead and they become a client, do you kind of have a system on, where that client goes, as far as, who you assign to what role, where the project is and all that?
Now, see, that's where the project managers come in, because right now I'm the one who coordinates everything. Okay. And it's gotten to be overwhelming. But one of the first things we do is set them up on Asana and assign all the people who are going to be a part of that project to that team on Asana. And then we set up a to-do list. We also set up a folder on Dropbox for file sharing. Although you can do it in Asana, it's still easier, in my opinion, to drag and drop files to Dropbox. And then we send the invite to the client to send out all their assets and project specs and things like that. Gotcha. And then we create a project narrative sheet with all the project goals, all the logins, all the different things that designers and developers would need. And then that's also put in a Dropbox for everyone who's part of the team for that project. Okay. That's so they can refer to it. That's great, Tammy, and that's a good inspiration for me, because right now the majority of that I just do on my own machine or in my head, and that's kind of what I'm trying to prepare for, is to really systematize my process. And I know systematizing things has kind of a bad connotation to it. It feels kind of corporate-y, but if you're working with a remote team, it's crucial, right? I mean, it is. And for you guys to be able to manage that, and I imagine too with Asana, it sounds pretty visual, because I know for me it helps to visually see where a project is at. Just, I don't know. Do you have calendar, like a calendar of deadlines and stuff like that when you set the project up? Well, Asana has that ability. We just haven't maxed that out yet.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's a lot of wonderful things you can do to it. Sarah Oates showed us in California over the summer, and it showed you a chart, graphs, and everything about where your project, what stage your project is in.
Okay.
So that's what I'm hoping that a project manager will actually start to use.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that'd be huge. I can imagine it because I mean, what would you say percentage wise is that? Is that like your highest amount of time that you're spending is being kind of the lead? Doing all these different things, communicating with people. Is that kind of what you do most?
It is. I think I spend 30 to 40% of my time doing that.
Okay.
So if I free up that time, then I can actually be more creative and lay out some visions for the future. It's kind of hard to have time to do that.
Yeah. That's my mindset with this is I can do, flyer updates and print work and, I can handle support emails and things like that. But that's really distracting me and taking away from the most meaningful work that I need to do. Not to say that work isn't meaningful, but I can get some other hands on deck to do that kind of stuff. That frees me up to do the big vision stuff and things like that, which sounds like is what the period that you're in right now, right?
Right.
Trying to free yourself up for that. Awesome. Well, that's really good advice too, as far as I appreciate you being transparent with your system and all that, because I think that's a really good, even if you're just a one-man shop, I think it's still very important before you scale to get that all in place before you scale, because it's going to be, triple as hard if you're used to doing things in your head and then you've got people asking for information and logins, but it's nowhere to be found. So let me ask you this question here, Tammy, because I'm asking everyone this. When you started scaling, did you have a buffer of, kind of money saved up to be able to take people on, or did you just kind of account for their expenses while you were doing projects? Did you, did you try to quote more to account for people who are working with you, or did you, is that kind of how that worked?
It is. When I realized I was ready to start scaling, I did start raising my rate. That way I could set aside a percentage of it for contractors.
Gotcha. And is that across all positions, designing, copywriting, designing and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have the ability to quote out specific projects, including them in a line item. So that really makes a difference.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, and this is a bit off topic, but do you guys have, well, actually, no, it applies to scaling, I'm sure. Do you have like package pricing, or is it pretty custom depending on the job? I know there are several methods on how to be able to scale, which are probably easier if you have almost like package style pricing.
We do. We have some package style pricing and some baseline for different they may need on the website. And so we have basically kind of like a formula of how to price out content.
Gotcha. And so for you, do you actually handle the proposal process right now? Is that still all in your court?
I'm doing too much.
Gotcha. So it sounds like ideally maybe a project manager or somebody would handle some of that then, right?
Exactly. That would be great. I do believe I've probably lost some business this year from being too busy and not letting someone else handle the proposals.
Okay. Wow. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I kind of have the same issue. Is a lot of times it'll take me a week to get a proposal out, whereas it would be really nice to be able to get that out in a day or two. Sometimes it doesn't take that long, and depending on the clients, if I think it's going to be a really good job, I'll clear my schedule. But that's kind of that's a tricky thing. It's a really good point, because you do want to free yourself up for new clients as opposed to just managing the current ones.
Right. It's an important part of scaling. You need all those new clients if you're going to scale. So you have to have even that process in place so that you're not letting new potential work fall through the cracks. Oh,
that's a good point. That's a really good point. And so when you're for new clients, do you kind of have like a weeding out period for them, or like do you vet them? I know for me, I'm trying to change the way I do this because in the past I've always just done a proposal and then either they like it or they don't and they try to take me down in price or I just don't hear from them again. But it's taken a lot of unnecessary time for me to come up with a whole proposal when I'm like, man, I wish I would have just weeded them out from the get-go, you know? And I'm kind of working on a page on that right now that's going to kind of walk people through and just give them an idea of estimate pricing. That way, if they're just a tire kicker who wants to spend $200, they can go to Wix or something like that. Do you have any processes like that to, save your time as far as weeding people out?
It's not really in depth, but our contact form asks specific questions, and we make sure that the starting prices for the things they're interested in are listed. That way, if they already know they're under budget, then they may not submit the form. So, So I think that's kind of helped because most of the people that contact us aren't really sticker shocked when they hear how much it's going to cost.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the negatives about not showing pricing is you just have no idea what people have in their mind. Everyone has a price range in their mind. It's just kind of figuring out how to get there. And I've had some people, I guess it's kind of a catch-22 because some clients have turned into really good clients. And initially they just wanted to spend $1,500, but I basically told them like, listen, this project is worth, $3,000 at minimum. And then they eventually come around, they've turned into good clients, but I had to kind of explain to them why it was worth that. Whereas if you have your client or your pricing out front, I'm sure it's easy to lose clients as well if they have, because you got to kind of educate them. So I'm trying to kind of walk the line between those two right now. And it sounds
it's kind of trial and error, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely tricky, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. It just depends on the way your business is set up, and I'm sure pricing in your area. Now, do you guys work with clients nationwide, or is it mostly people Googling, in your area and they're in Florida?
It's national and international.
Okay.
And no local work.
Wow, no kidding. So it's all Google, but national. That's awesome.
National and international. We work in Canada, Australia. We just finished the website for the Canada-China Business Council for an organization in China, Canada, and France.
Wow.
So,
and did you intentionally, have you done any SEO work on your site to get national recognition, or did that just kind of come about with leads and referrals?
We did a little bit of SEO work, but nothing extensive. I didn't hire an SEO expert or anything. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow, that's impressive. Now, I guess one question I had, since we're both Divi designers and we use Divi because you use Divi exclusively, right? Are you using any other platforms? Okay, so you're using Divi. Do you guys have templates and layouts? I mean, I know you do child themes as well. Do you have your designers, do you use your child themes for your sites as well, or are you guys doing custom designs for each website?
All of the work that we typically get on Sunflower Creatives are custom work. But occasionally we sell some packages on the Sunflower Child Theme site. A child theme customized. I'm sorry. We customize some of our child themes.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that was actually separate. I'm just looking at that right now. Okay, so child themes are specifically. So you're selling those to the Divi community, but you can also develop with those, I imagine, too.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good inspiration for me, because that's kind of one of my plans as well, is to create some child themes this year, but then to use those as starting points for clients who, they have a small budget and they can't do a regular project. Say, look, we do have this. For them, I'd probably call it like a template option, because they're not going to know what a child theme is. But I would say, we do have a template option that could at least get you started, and then we can always scale it up moving forward. That's probably a good idea as well. Very cool. So tell me this. So we've talked about a lot of positives. What are some of your struggles that you've had with scaling? Have you had any nightmare experiences? I mean, we don't have to call any names out or anything, but do you have any kind of warnings that you would give people who are wanting to grow their business, to kind of watch out for?
Well, the only thing I would say, I haven't had any nightmares yet, because I took it so slow. And like I mentioned before I even give anybody any, you know, important work, I've already kind of vetted them with doing small things. So it's tempting as it is to just kind of give someone the reins to do things. You have to take it slowly and make sure that they are capable of doing it. So I haven't had any nightmares, but the only thing that I have had was realizing that maybe some people aren't as conscientious as I would be working on things, and you just have to, I guess, let them get used to working with you and know your expectations.
Expectations, that's good. Yeah. And that's a few.
And have a little bit of patience because, like you mentioned before, maybe you've been doing this so long that you know what to look at, and maybe new people don't know what to look at and all the fine details.
And I think too, when you have your own business, there's a sense of urgency. Like for me, I rarely let an email go longer than 24 hours. I rarely let something on my to-do list go very long because I've just, you own your own business, you just get it done as quickly as possible. Whereas I'm sure when you hire somebody out, they're probably like, oh, I could probably get it done this week. It should be fine. So
exactly.
That's a good point. So I imagine, when it comes to expectations, that could include due dates as far as when things should be done. Do you have like kind of a almost like a walkthrough or anything like that of like your culture or how you kind of expect people you're working with to be with your clients and stuff like that, or do you just kind of match that up with the person who you're working with? You just hope they fit the mold?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Gotcha.
That's something I definitely want to get to, and I have not given many of them access to the clients. So that's something I tend to be the point of contact.
Okay.
So that's my next stage of scaling is being able to trust others to
enter. And that's a good rule of thumb, and that's what I've done too. Typically, is if I bring someone on to help out with something, I'll be the primary point of contact. But if I feel like they're doing well, like I've just started having some of my subcontractors talk with clients, and I don't give them, I'm kind of hoping that they would treat the client like I'm going to treat them, which is to be a priority and to be super nice and keep it casual and keep it light. And I think I'm going to try to write some of that out too, just so people kind of know what to expect. I almost think it's almost, I want to get the people who eventually come on with me to be in a frame of mind when they're doing the work, to be excited and, to kind of not be a carbon copy of me, but at least have the same values and missions and things like that. And
someone that actually cares.
Yeah. And I imagine for a remote team that has a lot of challenges too, just because do you guys, that's actually one question I had too, is do you do any like weekly or quarterly hangouts just to kind of go everything in detail or just, is it periodically just when the work comes in?
I haven't yet. So it's just been periodic. That's something I definitely want to do this year.
Gotcha.
Is to do more together, more, FaceTime together.
Kind of like team building kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. So one question, so you guys do maintenance and security, which is kind of similar to my maintenance and security plan from what I saw, because I know when I was talking with Kathy, she said she hires out to you as well to do that. Do you manage that, like your maintenance and security with retainer stuff, or do you have people on your team who do that?
Yes, I do, and someone else on my team helps me.
Okay. So when it comes to support, when people have issues with their site, do they just email you directly and then you send it out to whoever needs to get that done? Or what is, so, because I know support is a really big issue for me and I'm trying to solidify. I almost want to eliminate support from my regular email. I'm almost thinking about doing like a ticketed system in my site and just telling clients, if you have a support question or if you need an update, go here. I don't know what
that's a good idea. Now, we have two different things. For maintenance clients, I typically never get support. They don't usually have problems. As long as things have been updated when they should, and since we're familiar that we shouldn't update Divi right away, we don't update Divi.
Yeah.
right away, but the plugins and different things are taken care of. We don't receive a lot of support tickets there, but
Awesome.
if they have like something they want updated, we have them send a request through Asana. They can create a new list
Oh, okay.
for things that need to be done,
So
and then we
even
start working.
so even a client that, let's say you wrapped up a website and in 3 months they have some edits they want to make or additions, they can still go into Asana and create. Wow, okay. Because
They can send a message that way or add a list item.
Okay, because I usually close the project down in Basecamp and then no one accesses it, once it's
Well,
done.
I will if they're ongoing maintenance clients, I leave it open.
Oh,
But if
okay.
they're not, then they would just send an email request.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then of course we have for the child things we use Freshdesk ticket system.
Oh, okay. Now, yeah, that's for any
tickets.
child support tickets and stuff like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha. That's a good kind of layout, and I think that's something that everyone could take from is to, kind of try to segregate your support or just make it as clean as possible. And I'm sure once things scale, like I don't want to be getting every support ticket. For now it's okay. I don't get too many because kind of same as you. I really tried to eliminate that, but and I will say one thing that's really helped me. I don't know if this is any encouragement for you, but I have a client resources page on my site that has some tutorials on some of the basic WordPress questions, because really what I've realized the past couple of years, and more particularly this year, is a lot of my clients come to me with the same questions. The clients who are updating their sites, they just want to know the basics of WordPress. They want to know the basics of what Divi is. And a lot of my clients are like, what's Divi? So I try to give them some basics of that. And, if we're using any common plugins, like I use Gravity Forms, it's not rocket science to figure out how to create a form and add it to a page and manage the emails that come through. And so what I actually just did last week over Christmas break is I redid all of my tutorials for my client resources page. And I think that's going to save me some serious time moving forward, because this year I had so many meetings with clients and I just was repeating myself. I'm showing the same people how to, I'm just giving them an overview of WordPress. I'm just showing them the basics. And everyone can, there's unlimited knowledge out there. There's plenty of information on WordPress and Divi, but I found if it comes from you, as the people they're working with, there's like a whole nother level of understanding and trust there. And so that's really, right now I did 12 tutorials that go through the basics of WordPress, difference between a post and a page, just the basics of Divi, adding testimonials, working with Gravity Forms, and using SEO Yoast, just how to set your post up and do optimize it for SEO. And so I can't wait to see how that's going to play out this year, because I think that's going to help me tremendously, and I think it's probably good. And you can do it with any screen recording program, and you can do it with Apple headphones if you want to. You don't need a professional mic to make some basic tutorial videos. So that's definitely something I am excited about. Do you guys do client training for clients who actually post blogs and all that?
Yes, I have someone on my team that will do a screen share type training with those clients who desire it.
Okay.
Because not all of ours desire to do anything on their website. So
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's what we usually do.
Gotcha. That's great. Yeah. And like I said, that's the kind of thing I've done that too, to where for me, at least, if I'm going to repeat something, I'm going to try to systematize it as much as I can just to save that time.
I think that's a very important part. But just like with anything in life, you have to look at some of those things you want to add to your business year over year. And I think systematizing is definitely a good time saver.
Yeah, and I read a book recently that talked about systematizing, and basically it summed it up in a way that I loved. And it basically said systematizing is simply freeing you up to do what you want to do. And I love that because it's so you can get so bogged down with doing support and things that are distracting you from what you really want to do, especially as the owner of the business. Yep.
Yes, that's true.
Well, that's great, Tammy. We've covered some really good stuff. We've gone over, kind of how you built your team, some of the tools you're using, how you're handling support, kind of a little bit of how you're, taking in clients and vetting them out, that could be a whole different discussion for sure, as far as like the process of getting through clients and all that stuff. But I guess just to kind of end, I'd love to maybe get kind of a final thought from you on actually, you know what, before we do that, I meant to ask you, you said you're pretty content with things now, but what are your plans this year? What are you looking to do as far as how you're going to scale your business this year?
Well, I think the number one thing I'm going to do is get the new project manager trained in keeping up with all the projects, keeping everyone on task so that we can get them finished, making sure we have client assets early in the project process or even before it starts. So those are my pain points from last year that I definitely want to get in control this year.
Awesome. And that's everyone's struggle, getting content from clients.
Yes.
That is everyone's struggle for sure. Yeah. That's going to be a whole other separate series I think I'm going to do this year. So we'll probably have a round 2 interview on that one. So keep track of all the stuff you're doing for sure. Well, on that note, do you have a parting thought for, folks like me or anyone else who is thinking about taking that next level and wants to scale?
Yes, if you are thinking of scaling, I suggest you make sure that you're prepared in advance. Make sure that everything that's in your head is out on paper. Create processes and systems so that other people can work with you, because it's so easy to keep it all bottled up inside. All of your visions and the little things that you do, try to take note of it, because you may have to teach someone else what it is that you do to create what you do. And
that's great.
Have your success.
That's a really good point. So get it out of your head, get it on paper or get it on file, make it a process. Because no one's mind readers, you can't expect expect them to work just like the way you work. So that's great.
Right. That way, once you get someone on board, you're not wasting your time and money, because they may not be able to launch working with you the way you expect them to, because they may have tons of questions you haven't thought of. So, it can be kind of difficult in the beginning.
Oh, I'm sure.
Learning to work with others.
And I know one mindset shift that I've had recently, because I'm doing some business coaching right now, going through a business coaching class. And one thing that they've really helped me think about is to almost treat myself like an employee. So I need to do a better job at keeping track of my hours, systematizing everything. And basically, like, I'm trying to step into the shoes of the owner of the business and not just the web designer, because I still do all the web designing. So it's very easy to kind of get those two. And part of me, from a financial standpoint, I don't mean to keep us going, but I think this is important to this, is from a financial standpoint, I felt like, man, we're making, I feel like we're coming, we have a lot of money coming in gross now. Why don't I have more in my bank account? And it's really, it's because I've set up, like, I've really created a good job as a web designer. I've created a good web designer job, but I don't have many good margins or profits as the owner right now, just because of my pricing, because of, just a lot of different things in the business. And a lot of that is because I can't focus on growing the business. I'm so busy designing websites. So that's just something I wanted to share, that I'm trying to kind of step out of the shoes as the web designer and the owner, and kind of almost treating myself like an employee, kind of like a clock in. All right, I'm working on the website. These are my hours, kind of doing that.
Have to be more accountable.
Yeah.
Being more accountable of time and resources.
That's great. That's a good point. And I imagine, shoot for everything, right? From tools, money, timing, client communication, team communication. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Tammy, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with me today about this. I think this is going to be beneficial for a lot of people, because I think there's a few different levels. There's someone like me who's just taking that one step up to try to get somebody on board, or maybe a few people on board. And then you're kind of at the next level, I feel like, to where you have several people, in your corner. And then there's, of course, there's web design agencies who have several employees and everything. But I think, you're an inspiration for a lot of people, I think, who want to just take that next level for sure. So thank you very much for your expertise and your time today.
And thank you for having me.
All right, Tammy, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.